Alright, so let's have a quick render inside of Marmoset. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my mesh. And right now you can see there's no normal map on it. And we might want to rotate this guy around. The beautiful thing about Marmoset is that it is super simple. Let's just start by taking a look at our scene. We have our sky. This is our IBL. There's plenty of presets loaded inside of Marmoset that we could use. Alright, they're mostly blurred out just because we're trying to get lighting information, not a background in there, but you can use it as your background. And you do have control over how much blur is being applied to that background, right? As well as how bright it is. Right, and that's down here. So let's bring that blur back. That works a little bit better for the lighting. We also have overall image brightness here, and this has to do with the lighting. So right now I'm rotating the IBL around. Alright, so those are your basic controls here. You have camera controls and all your camera stuff down here. So that includes things like exposure, right? Contrast, any sort of image adjustments that you'd be making through the camera, saturation. You can also have bloom effects. So if you have, say, a luminescent map in the background, you can use bloom and control the size of the bloom. Right, so if we're going to bring that up, you can play the size of the bloom on that. Let's bring that back down. Let's also bring back down our exposure. It's a little strong. And saturation. That's fine. Alright. Just click on done here. Vignette. You can apply a vignette to your scene. Softness in the vignette is controlled here. You can also apply a film grain to your render. This sometimes helps with breaking up banding that you might be getting in the background when you export an image. And then you also have control over sharpness, or a sharpness effect. Right. Above that we have lens flares. There we go. Let's go to size, play with that. Right, there's a little lens flare we could play with. Play at the field of view. This is much like perspective inside of ZBrush. And then here we have our camera controls. Right, so W, A, S, D, just like a video game, right? And then we also have the middle mouse navigation and all that, right? So I can just rotate or fly around just like that. Alright, now if I click on my mesh, there we go, you'll see that I have my mesh options here. So cast shadows, calling back faces, which I want on, tangent space, Marmoset, or I can imitate Maya or Max or X normals. It's also telling me how much memory everything is taking. Right, what's being thrown into the video card. This is especially helpful if you're going to take this into Unreal, so you can see some pre-stats before taking on the job of importing into Unreal. Then if we go over here on the right hand side and we click on the shader, we can see all the shader attributes. Right, so there's subdivs that you can use. My video card doesn't support it, but you can use displacement as well, which in real time, so you use a displacement map. Then we go into surface. Let's go ahead and pick our normal map. There we go. Now we're starting to see our detail in our model. Let's go ahead and throw some color on there. I'm going to go into my micro surface and my gloss map, and I'm going to drop in a little bit of color here to get it in there. Then let's also jump down to our emissive map, and I've already loaded up the same map in there. I'm just going to bring up the intensity. Be very, very careful with that, because we don't want to bring it all the way up, because our object is not 100% emissive. Look what happens to the body that's not painted right now. Right, so we want to keep this very low. This is like ambient light inside of the material attributes inside of ZBrush. Then let's go into our reflectivity, and I'm going to call this specular map. And there we go. Now we're getting our full color. Then we also have a secondary reflection. I'm going to say blend Fong. That's going to give us our shininess or some more 3D shading on our surface. Right? It's catching the light now. And then you can also apply ambient occlusion. It's unfortunately it is. I did not generate this out of ZBrush, but you can use an AO map as well as a cavity map and tune that. And I'm really just sort of pointing out where things are. So the biggest thing for me when I came to Marmoset was really how to get my color map working properly. And this is sort of like the best way that I've found to get it working. Is a combination of your gloss map, your specular map, your emissive map, and then using blend and Fong inside of your reflection and secondary reflection. So that's it. So what I recommend doing is, setting this in and giving it a shot out. And this is really used for game preview. I would never use this for final render. This is really sort of like, okay, how is this going to look inside the engine? And how are my maps working? It's a better way to preview. So this complements texturing inside of Photoshop really well. Photoshop gives you one way to see your model, right, while you're texturing it. Marmoset as an external application gives you a lot more controls than Photoshop can offer, but still very, very simply can give you some, decent real-time renders at the same time. So pose this out and get it done. Go over to your render settings and set up your anti-aliasing. Setting this up high will slow you down. You can do 3D stereo conversion. Don't have it on right now, but we can come over here and go, okay, red and cyan, and then control the separation if you'd see what's going on there. So you can look at this with 3D glasses. You can also view your wireframe. If we zoom in here, you can see it. You turn ambient occlusion. At really low cage meshes, you're not going to see, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot out of AO. You're going to get more out of an ambient occlusion map that you would bake out of ZBrush. And we'll be covering that in the boss project. But here's occlusion strength. I'm not sure if you're really going to see anything out of this. You can try some of the options here. High-res shadows, occlusion size. I have it turned way up, and I'm seeing absolutely nothing out of it. So let's turn that off. Local reflections turns on self-reflection. Right. And then you also have an animation tab where you can set turntables. Right. So if we were to center this puppy, There we go. Still got that lens flare going. But let's set them right there. Right. And let's set this to 360. And click on play. You can get a turntable going. Now, my character isn't centered anymore. I moved him around in Photoshop when I was in there, so want to keep that guy centered. What you can do before you come into Marmoset is go ahead and pose it out inside of ZBrush and then bring it in. But at least wanted to give you guys a couple pointers bringing in Marmoset. We'll cover this more at the very end of the class and look at finessing it, along with using Substance Designer and our PBR and all that stuff. We'll go back over it. But there's a little bit to make you dangerous.